The gravity of insecurity in the Sahel region animated deliberations at the ongoing UN General Assembly in what they termed evolution of terrorism, violent extremism, and transnational crime. That is my lone top story, ladies and gentlemen. Hello there, welcome to joining us on the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on For You Radio and Television. We begin this day from the UN, that is from the United States of America, where the president of Niger, who chaired the high-level panel on security and development in the Sahel, beckoned on the international community to invest in education to fight against violence and hence prevent terrorism. Ewane Epolem sat through during that deliberations and compiled the following report for us.
Embalo, chairman of the Economic Community of West African States and president of Guinea-Bissau during the United Nations General Assembly, seized the opportunity to draw the attention of world leaders on the evolution of terrorism, violent extremism, and traditional crime in the Sahel region. He called for the involvement of the community in general and the United Nations in particular in order to remedy issues that plague their territory.
The stability of a large part of our continent in general, and the West Africa in particular, is threatened by insecurity caused by terrorism, violent extremism, and transnational crime. We must necessarily involve the entire international community and the UN in particular.
For the president of Niger, who is chairing the high-level panel on security and development in the Sahel, he raised a hand of encouragement to the international community, calling upon them to invest in education to fight against violence, hence prevent terrorism. For him, the act of investing the necessary resources in important domains will prevent violence now and in the near future.
The population and the degradation of the climate in combination have created, thanks to the regional disorder following the fall of the regime of Colonel Gaddafi in 2011, the situation of chaos that the countries of the Sahel are experiencing today. We must act by investing in the necessary resources in education to fight against today's violence and prevent tomorrow's violence. In December last year, the African Union and the UN pledged to work together in tandem with ECOWAS and the G5 Sahel to improve the overall response to security, governance, and development across the Sahel.
The African Union and the United Nations in December 2021 pledged to work together in tandem with the Economic Community of West African States and the 5G Sahel, which brings together 5 Sahelian countries to improve the overall response to security, governance, and development across the Sahel.
We stay in the US of A, where we are told that Deputy Ethiopian Prime Minister Demeke Mekonnen, while addressing world leaders, outlined some strides made by his government to counter insecurity in their region, especially the Tigray region, but insists they are open to dialogue. Take a listen to him.
The hands of these lords of instability, we went through unimaginably inhuman attacks against citizens, instigation of violence and destruction of property that culminated in an attack against the Ethiopian army. On the night of November 4 last year, in a scheme orchestrated by a criminal group, the Ethiopian National Defense Force was attacked from within. The unsuspecting men and women in uniform were slain. The government of Ethiopia took the necessary measures to avert the grave danger imposed on us. Mr. President, while the government was addressing humanitarian needs, the disruptors applied their cruel design to aggravate human suffering. We were also caught by surprise and, to be honest, unprepared for the twisted propaganda campaign. Dialogue has always been our preferred course of action. Accordingly, Ethiopia is open to candid initiatives for peace. In this connection, We will work with the African Union and the High Representative for the Horn of Africa towards an Ethiopia-led national dialogue. We only hope the African Union will be given the space to apply its own wisdom. Mr. President, the political and security landscape in Africa is on a path of adversity. Forcible overthrow of governments, joint military exercise, aggression, renewed appetite for intervention in sovereign countries, subversion and mercenarism, normalized and renewed scramble for natural resource, secret military pacts, geopolitical competitions, and others are becoming pervasive. Unless we swiftly change course, this will be yet another round to destabilize Africa and disenfranchise Africans in the determination of our destiny. We hope there will be more countries to lift the banner of multilateralism rather than the vagaries of unilateralism.
His Excellency Demeke Mekonnen, Deputy Prime Minister of Ethiopia, talking there about how much stride his government have been making this far in the fight against insecurity in the Tigray region of Ethiopia. Now, one of those key issues or the key speakers that caught our attention during this ongoing 77th edition of the UN General Assembly in New York has been that of Nigeria. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari was addressing. He made three key aspects which of course caught our attention. That is the impact of the war in Ukraine, global energy crisis, and that of climate change. Take a listen to him.
The current administration last year adopted a national climate change strategy that aims to deliver climate change mitigation in a sustainable manner. The measures we took at the national level also require climate justice. Africa and other developing nations produce only a small proportion of greenhouse gas emissions compared to industrialized economies. Yet, we are the hardest hit by the consequences of climate change, as we see in the sustained droughts in Somalia and floods of unprecedented severity in Pakistan. These and other climate-related occurrences are now suddenly becoming widely commonplace in the developing world. We are, in effect, literally paying the price for policies that others pursue. This needs to change. Rocketing energy costs worldwide are, in part, the product of conflict and supply disruptions to Europe and the Americas. Yet, we are all paying the price. It is therefore our expectation that this UNGA 77 and the upcoming COP27 will help galvanize the political will required to drive action towards the fulfillment of the various existing climate change initiatives. So also come together to defend freedom of speech while upholding other values that we cherish. We must continue to work for a common standard that balances rights with responsibilities to keep the most vulnerable from harm and help strengthen and enrich communities. In the sanctity of constitutional term limits, and we have steadfastly adhered to it in Nigeria. We have seen the corrosive impact on values when leaders elsewhere seek to change the rules to stay on power. Indeed, we now are preparing for general elections in Nigeria next February. As the 78th UNGA, there will be a new face at this podium speaking for Nigeria. Ours is a vast country, strengthened by its diversity and its common values of hard work, enduring faith, and a sense of community.
His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari of Nigeria talking there. And onto something else, as Malian authorities held a traditional military parade on Thursday to mark the country's independence, West African leaders equally met and unanimously agreed to impose gradual sanctions on Guinea's military government over inflexibility in setting a date to return to civilian rule. Ewane Epole tells us more in this report.
The West African leaders agreed at the emergency summit to impose gradual sanctions on Guinea's military over its inflexibility in setting a date to return to civilian rule. A summary on the meeting revealed that the leaders agreed on gradual sanctions on a list of people linked to Guinean military who will be identified very soon by the bloc's leadership. It should be noted that the West Africa bloc since the past 2 years has been struggling with a string of military coups in the region. Mali, for example, underwent coups in August 2020 and May 2021, followed by Guinea in September 2021 and Burkina Faso. It should be noted that the West Africa bloc since the past 2 years has been struggling with a string of military coups in the region. Mali, for example, underwent coups in August 2020 and May 2021, followed by Guinea in September 2021 and Burkina Faso in January. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has lifted tough sanctions imposed on Mali's military regime, accepting a return to civilian rule in March 2024. However, Mali and Guinea remain suspended from ECOWAS bodies. As a reminder, ECOWAS had condemned the arrest of the Ivorian soldiers and had decided to send the presidents of Ghana, Togo and Senegal to Mali to obtain their release on Tuesday, September 27.
Over now to Cameroon. Defense Ministry spokesperson in Cameroon, Atonfax Cyril, in a release, has confirmed the country's security force killed 2 civilians in the northwest region and they have been disarmed and detained at a gendarmerie post in Bangui in the northwest region. Fotso tells us more.
A statement signed Wednesday by military spokesperson Serge Cyril Atonfax says the troops were dispatched to fight separatists in the troubled northwest region. The troops violated orders from military hierarchy and started shooting indiscriminately on civilians, the military says, adding that one shooter killed 2 harmless mothers. The government says family members of the killed mothers rushed to the scene and collected corpses when the government troop left. Diane Geka, a relative of one victim, said civilians sealed their businesses and refused to go to their farms for 3 days as a sign of protest against Monday's killing. A young Taj, an official with the Center of Human Rights and Democracy in Africa, says right groups in Cameroon will continue exerting pressure until the military punish all of its troops who have committed atrocities. Activist groups also accuse Cameroon government troops who were deployed to secure school when the academic year opened on September 5 of killing scores of villagers in western towns and villages including Andek, Wum, Boyo, Bamenda and Kumba. The military described the accusation as unfounded but promised to punish troops who killed a civilian in Andek. The government has not said what the punishment will be, and the accused soldiers' whereabouts remain unknown. In April, Cameroon government also acknowledged that soldiers had killed 3 women and 10 children in a February massacre that they then tried to cover up by torching houses and blaming rebels. Right groups have repeatedly accused both Cameroon military and Anglophone separatists of killing civilians and torching their homes during their 5 years of fighting. Each side rejected the accusation as intended to tarnish its image.
That will be all for this week. We hope to be back again as from Monday. From us to you all out there, it's happy weekend. God bless Africa. Bye-bye.